Welcome back to another session on transport and plants. So far we have studied about the process of diffusion, the process of osmosis as well as imbibition. So we proceed further and we take up the next part or the next topic in this particular chapter, that is long distance transport of water. Now in a plant, if we take a plant, we know the water is there in the soil, and from the soil it is entering the roots through your root hairs. Through the root it will enter, from there it is going up. How does it go? Okay, how does it go? ಈಗ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ಬಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಷನಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ, ಬಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಆ ಬಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಹತ್ತೀರಿ. ನೀವು ಬಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಹತ್ತಿದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಅದು ನೀವು ಆ ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಟ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. isn't it? ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ನೀರಿದೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಾಯಿಲಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರಿದೆ, ಆ ನೀರು ರೂಟಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ರೂಟ್ಸಿಂದ ಈಗ ತುದಿ ತನಕ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ದಿ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್, ಹೌ ವಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಟೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್? ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಲರ್ನ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಸೆಷನ್. ದ ವಾಟರ್, minerals as well as food that is there, they move en masse. What do you mean by en masse? Bulk flow. Okay, en masse ಅಂದರೆ ಬಲ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. ಈಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಿಚನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡುಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಊಟ ರೆಡಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಊಟವನ್ನು, ಈಗ ರೈಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅನ್ನ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಅನ್ನವನ್ನು ತಂದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಊಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಈಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಬರ್ತೀರಿ? ನೀವು ಆ ಪಾತ್ರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡು ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತೀರಿ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಒಂದೊಂದೇ ಕಾಳನ್ನು ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ ಬಾಯಿಗೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ ಕಿಚನಿಗೆ, ಆ ಪಾತ್ರೆಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಅನ್ನವನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದು ಬಾಯಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ, ಅದು ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ, ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಅದಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕೋ ಆ ಟೇಬಲಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಒಂದು ಪಾತ್ರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಆ ಟೇಬಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಆ ಟೇಬಲಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲಿಟ್ಟ ಪಾತ್ರೆಯಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕೋ ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನೀವು ಬಡಿಸಿ ತಿಂತೀರಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ನೀವು ಪಾತ್ರೆಯಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ ಹಾಕುವಾಗ ಒಂದೊಂದೇ ಹಾಕಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಬಾಯಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಾಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಮಾಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ನನಗೊಂದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕು ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನು ನೀವು ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಿ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ನೀರಿರಲಿ, ಮಿನರಲ್ಸ್ ಇರಲಿ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಫುಡ್ ಇರಲಿ, ದೇ ಮೂವ್ ಎನ್ ಮಾಸ್. ಎನ್ ಮಾಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಮಾಸ್ ಫ್ಲೋ, that is in a bulk flow. So movement of substances in bulk from one point to another as a result of a pressure difference between the 2 points is how the long distance transport of water will be taking place, or the long distance transport of minerals as well as food will be taking place. ಅದು ಬಲ್ಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಜಾಗದಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So there is a bulk flow that is taking place. How is this bulk flow obtained? ಈಗ ಎನ್ ಮಾಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಅದು ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ? ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ 2 hydrostatic pressures that play a role. One is a positive hydrostatic pressure gradient and the second one is a negative hydrostatic pressure gradient. ಈಗ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ನೀವೀಗ ಗಿಡಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರು ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ, ಓಕೆ, ಗಾರ್ಡನ್ ಪೈಪಿಂದ ಆ ಗಾರ್ಡನ್ ಹೋಸಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೋದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್, ಹೈಡ್ರೋಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್. ವೆನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ವೇರ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅ ಬಾಟಲ್ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್. ಒಂದು ಬಾಟಲ್ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ, ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ನೀವು ಕುಡಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಇಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಇಟ್ಟು ಖಾಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಾಯಿ ಇಟ್ಟರೆ ಆ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಾಯಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಕ್ಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ಹೀರ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಿ, ಎಳಿತೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಎಳಿವಾಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಆ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರಿಂದ ಕೆಳಗಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀರು ಮೇಲೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಆ ಕೆಳಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಾಯಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೊಂದು ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆದರೆ, ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಆದರೆ, ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಆ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ನನ್ನ ಬಾಯಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನನ್ನ ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೀರ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದನ್ನು ಹೀರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಜ್ಯೂಸ್ ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನನ್ನ ಬಾಯಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ the bulk flow that is there, it is achieved mainly by your positive hydrostatic pressure gradient and your negative hydrostatic pressure gradient. How do plants absorb water? Okay, how are they able to absorb water? We keep saying roots are the ones that help in root water absorption, roots are the one which help in mineral absorption. Okay, fine, but how do they do it? ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತದೆ? So the root hairs that are there, okay, what are root hairs? So under the anatomy chapter you have studied that the epidermis has certain extension which are very thin, very slender extensions on the epidermis known as the root hair. Now these root hair are the sites where the water absorption will be taking place from the soil. So the root hairs that are there, they absorb the water as well as the minerals from the soil. So in the soil over here, if this is the root, you can see this is the root hair. So in this soil you will be having water as well as minerals. Here the water that is there, first it will get absorbed to the root hair and from there it will enter and it will start moving inside. Okay, absorption process will take place. So root hairs, as I already said, they are thin walled slender extensions of the epidermal cells. Now these root hairs that are there, they greatly increase the surface area of absorption. ಅದು absorption ಅನ್ನು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ಅದರ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಏರಿಯಾವನ್ನು ಅದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. So entry of water from soil to the root xylem. So if you have studied the anatomy, you already know the anatomy, you know that if this is the epidermis of the root, here we have the stele region, isn't it, where you have the radial arrangement of the vascular bundles. We have the xylem, we have the phloem, we have the xylem, we have the phloem this way, alternately. Okay, radial arrangement is seen over here. So we have the root hair and here we have the soil, and in this surrounding soil we have the water as well as the minerals. So what happens is, initially the water that is there, water molecules will come and absorb itself to the root hairs like this, and from there by the process of diffusion it will enter into the root hair, and from the root hair it will start moving into the cell. So here you have the cortical cells, okay, of the root. From the cortical cells you have the different cortical cells like this, from one cell to the other, from one cell to the other it will start moving and ultimately it will come to the endodermis, and from the endodermis it will enter into your root xylem, and from the root xylem you know that there is a continuous column which moves up the stem and towards the leaves. So here you get to see the radial or transverse conduction of water from the soil towards the root xylem. This is how it will start moving from outside to the inside. Cell to cell movement is seen. So here remember the entry that is of the water from the soil towards the root xylem, it basically follows two paths, that is apoplastic pathway and the symplastic pathway. So here you have the soil with the water and the minerals. You can see the root hair which is the extension of your epidermis, and here you have the cortical cells. So if you can just observe over here, you will see the water that is there, it will move into the root hair, and from the root hair cell to cell it will start moving and ultimately it will come to the root xylem. So this is achieved by two pathways, that is your apoplastic pathway and your symplastic pathway. Now what is this apoplastic pathway? Apoplast. So here this is your continuous system formed by the cell walls and the intercellular spaces of the root cells. It is a continuous pathway which is formed between the cell wall and the intercellular spaces. So here you can see this pink color that you can see, okay, pink lines that you can see, this is indicating your apoplastic pathway. So from the cell wall through the intercellular spaces it will be moving. there is no movement into the cell. So here the water that is there, it will not move into the cell. Instead, it will be using only the cell wall as well as your intercellular spaces this way. Okay. Now this is followed everywhere except at the Casparian strips. Where do you find the Casparian strips? We find the Casparian strips on the endodermis. We call them as the Casparian walls or the Casparian thickenings or the Casparian strips. Now where there is Casparian strip, the water does not enter because it is impervious to water. Okay. Now this movement basically depends upon your gradient. There is no barrier for the water movement because it is just moving through your intercellular spaces. It is not entering into the cell, and this mass flow occurs mainly due to the adhesive and cohesive properties of water. So in mass, in bulk, it is moving from one point to the other. Now this mass flow is basically because of the two properties of water, that is adhesive and cohesive properties of water. Now what do you mean by the cohesive property as well as the adhesive property of water? Cohesion is the ability of the water molecules to cling to one another. So it is the property of the water molecules to cling to one another. That is why if you have water, you can't split water into two, isn't it? You can't put your finger and say, okay, this part go that side, this part go this side. No. You have to separate it out. You have to take some water fluid and pour it into another container. You cannot say that, okay, I am going to keep my scale. I have a scale over here. This is the water. I am going to keep it right in the middle. This is this, this is this. This is the boundary. No, you can't do it because the water molecules tend to stick to each other. And this property of the water molecules to cling to one another is known as the cohesion property. So you cannot separate out water, saying that this molecule go and stand there, this molecule go and stand here. You can't do that. It is always clinging together. You can't create a partition in between the water unless you place a barrier over there which is impervious to water. Unless you place it, unless you construct a wall over there, you cannot separate out the water, and individual molecules you cannot separate out because of this property known as the cohesive property. Now what is this adhesion property? So adhesion property is a property of water molecules wherein it is mainly due to the hydrogen bonding, where they are able to cling to other molecules or substances such as soil, cellulose, proteins, wood as well as glass. So you must have seen this phenomena wherein you can see the water droplets, okay, attached to the surface. They are attached to the surface. How are they able to attach to the surface? Or else even if you take your water and you just sprinkle, I am not asking you to pour it like that, just take some water and sprinkle it or spray it over your glass. You can see that some of them attach and gradually they will be sliding down. It is not that this is glass, so I am not going to stick, I am going to come out. No, it is not going to separate out. You will see that they will cling to it and gradually they will slide down. Okay. So this property of the water molecules to adhere or to attach to other substances is known as your adhesion property, and cohesion is the ability of the water molecules to stick to each other. That is why when you see these insects, you have the sliding insects that are present in the water, they walk on the water. Do you see that the water splits wherever they go? No. It will just create a depression, but it is not going to split saying that, okay, here there is, it has kept up, its leg over here, so I will create a cavity. No. It is not like you have a new cement flooring where the cement has just been applied and you go and keep your foot. It is not going to come back, isn't it? When you keep your foot, what will happen? Your foot impression will remain on the cement. But here what happens is, if you have water, you go and place your foot on the water, surface of the water, it is not going to leave your impression over there, because the water molecules that are there, they cling to one another by a process known as cohesion. Coming to the symplastic pathway. In the apoplastic pathway, what happened? The water molecules was moving, or the water was moving through the cell membrane, the cell wall as well as your intercellular spaces, and there was no entry into the cell. Whereas here, this is a pathway. A symplast is a continuous network of the cytoplasm and the interconnecting plasmodesmata. So, here you have the cell, this is one more cell, and you have the plasmodesmata which will be connecting the two cells. So, here what happens is, this yellow portion that you can see, this is the cytoplasm, this is the cytoplasm of the next cell, and this bridge that you can see, this is the plasmodesmatal bridge, plasmodesmatal connection between the two cells. Here what happens, this green path you can see, the water tends to move from the cytoplasm of one cell to the cytoplasm of the next cell through this plasmodesmal connection. So, here it is moving through the cells itself, whereas when you come to your symplast, it is moving through the intercellular spaces, whereas here from cytoplasm to cytoplasm through the plasmodesmal interconnections, your water is moving. So, water enters through the cell membrane. Since it is entering into the cell through the cell membrane, this process is quite slow when compared to the apoplastic pathway. And this symplastic pathway, it can also be helped by your cytoplasmic streaming, wherein you can see the cytoplasm streaming. So, this is one example that you can see of the cytoplasmic streaming in case of your hydrilla plants. So, here you can see you have how the pathways, you have the apoplastic pathway and the symplastic pathway. So, apoplastic pathway is represented by this light blue color, wherein the water is moving from the cell membrane, cell wall to the intercellular spaces, and it is moving. Okay, this is how it is moving. Whereas, when you come to your symplastic pathway, this brownish color that you can see, from one cell to the next cell, it is moving through the plasmodesmal connection. From one cytoplasm to the next cytoplasm, it is moving through your plasmodesmal connection. Water flow in the roots. How is the water flowing in the roots? So, this is mainly, in case of your roots, the flow is mainly through your apoplastic pathway. When compared to the symplastic pathway, more of apoplast is seen over here. Remember, symplast is a very slow process. So, apoplast is, when compared to symplast, it is faster. So, mostly through apoplastic pathway, you get to see your movement of water. Now, in the roots, why do you get to see more of apoplast? Because in the roots, you have the cortical cells, which are basically made of parenchyma cells. So, when you are talking about parenchyma cells, you know that there is intercellular spaces between the cells. So, through these intercellular spaces, because the cortical cells are loosely arranged, through the intercellular spaces, because there is no resistance offered over there, the water tends to flow through the roots. Now, when you come to the Casparian strips that are there in the roots, you have the Casparian strips, and we know that it is your suberized region, and this suberized region is impervious to water. It does not allow water to pass through it, isn't it? Since it is impervious to water, in such regions what will happen? The water is directed towards a non-suberized region. Okay. So, imagine you have the cortical cell, this is the endodermal cells, this is one more endodermal cell, this is the endodermal cells. You have this way, it is going on. Imagine in this region, you have the Casparian thickenings. Okay, you have the Casparian thickening over here, you do not have the Casparian thickening over here. So, the water, when it is coming, it has come till here and it is not able to move past through this because of the Casparian thickening that you have, then it is channelized to the next one, to the non-suberized region, and then the water flow will continue. Heard about mycorrhiza, isn't it? Mycorrhiza. Myco is fungus and rhiza is your roots. So, this is the association of your roots with the fungus. It is a symbiotic association. Now, what do you mean by symbiotic? It's a mutual association where both are benefited. Okay, you have two organisms living together and both are benefited. Mutual benefit is seen. So this is your symbiotic association. So when you come to the mycorrhizae, mycorrhizae means it's a symbiotic association of the fungus with the root system. It is common in certain plants. So mycorrhiza, rhiza means root, mycotons, that is your fungus. Now this mycorrhizal association, that is the symbiotic association that is between the fungus and the root system, help in the water and mineral absorption. The fungal hyphae that is there, they have a large surface area. So this increases the volume of your absorption. So the surface volume for absorption of water and minerals is increased whenever the fungal hyphae is associated. I said it is a symbiotic association. Both are benefited. How are they benefited? What is the mutual benefit both are going to reap? Now the fungus that is there, it provides minerals and waters. Okay, how does it provide minerals and water? It will help in the absorption of minerals and water from the soil, whereas the roots that are there, they provide the sugars and nitrogen containing compounds to the fungus. It is like a paying guest system. Okay, it is like a paying guest system. The fungus is a guest with the, it's a paying guest, okay, with the roots. So what do you do when you live in a PGs, in a paying guest method? What will happen? You live in one place, you pay the owner of the PG, and the owner of the PG in turn gives you a place to stay, as well as your food is provided by the PG owner. Now this is a mutual benefit. The PG is going to give you, the person, a place to stay as well as food and water, whereas the person who is living in the PG is paying for it. Okay, so both are benefited out of it. Just like that, in the symbiotic association also, the fungus as well as the roots are benefited from each other because it is a symbiotic association. Now how are they benefited over here? The fungus that is there, as a rent, as a payment mode, will help in the absorption of minerals and water, and as a PG owner, your roots that are there, they will be providing the sugars as well as your nitrogen containing compounds. In certain plants, this mycorrhizal association is very important. It is obligate. It has to be there. Okay, for example, in your pinus trees, pine trees, this pinus is your gymnosperm. In this pinus tree, mycorrhizal association is a must, because without this mycorrhizal association, the seeds cannot germinate and they cannot establish themselves without this mycorrhizal association. So far we have already finished off with the process of imbibition, osmosis, as well as your diffusion process, and then we moved on and saw how the water enters into the root system, how the absorption takes place with the help of the roots, and from there how it comes to the root xylem. So right now we know that the water as well as the minerals is in the root xylem. From there, from the root xylem, how does it go upward? Okay, through the stem and then towards the leaves. How does it reach up? Okay, it has to move against your gravitation. So how does it go? That is what we are going to study, water movement up a plant. So from here, from the soil, it has entered into your roots. It is there in the root xylem, and from this root xylem, how does it go up into your target cells, that is towards your stem as well as your leaves, and from the leaves how it goes out. So here there are various theories put forth to explain the upward movement of water or the ascent of sap. Different theories are there. So basically we are concentrating only on two theories, that is your root pressure theory as well as your transpiration pull theory. Now what is this root pressure theory? What is this root pressure? So root pressure is a positive pressure that is exerted inside the xylem. Inside the xylem, a pressure is created as the water, as the minerals is entering into the xylem, it is going to create a positive pressure, and that positive pressure is known as your root pressure. And this root pressure that is created, it is enough to push water upward to a very short distance. Okay, very short distance. It is like, imagine we have a pile. Okay, we are having a pile, we are going on adding more and more to it. As we are adding more and more from below, what will happen? The pile starts going upward. Okay, it will start. You cannot go on adding more and more so that it goes up. No, up to a certain extent you can raise those piles of stones or whatever it is. If you are adding from below, from underneath, you are going on adding. So here the same thing, as more and more water and the ions and the minerals are entering into the xylem of the root, a pressure, a positive pressure is created which is pushing the water upward to a short distance. What is the experimental evidence that we have? We should have some evidence, isn't it, that this is taking place. We can't blindly say that, okay, I will put forth a theory and you have to accept it. No, you have to give certain experimental evidences to it. So we have two experimental evidences over here. We will see the first one. In the first experiment, what can be done is, in a well-watered plant, a well-watered small plant, you can't expect this in a large tree because, as I said, root pressure is very less, it is a positive pressure, it is very less, and this is enough to push the water to a short distance. You cannot expect this root pressure to be seen in the tip of a tree. So in a small herbaceous plant you can take, which is well watered, if you take a plant and early in the morning, one fine morning, when the atmospheric moisture is adequate, okay, it is good, this soft stem plant that is there, if you cut it, okay, horizontally at the base, you leave only the stump over here, you cut it at the base and keep a measuring manometer or a test tube, anything, you can see that the water will be exuding out. Okay. From this tip which you have cut, the water will start moving out. So this exuded water, if you collect it using a manometer, you are able to measure the amount of water that is exuded out. This is one experiment. And the second experimental evidence we have is guttation. Guttation is a natural phenomena. You must have seen early in the mornings, if you wake up early in the morning and just go out from these herbaceous plants, small herbaceous plants like your tomatoes and all, if you have a tomato plant and all, if you go there, it should be a well watered plant. It is not that you just have a tomato plant and you have not watered it at all, no. A well watered tomato plant or any other herbaceous plant that you have, even your colocasia plant, this is quite common. The colocasia leaves, you call it as the patrode leaves, you know, those heart shaped leaves that are there. Now these leaves in the early in the morning, if you go near the plant, you will see that from the tip of the plant, water droplets will be seen like this. Okay, it will be exuded out. I am not talking about the mist or the dewdrops. No, ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗಿನ ಹೊತ್ತು ನೀವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗಿಡಗಳ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದರೆ, ಸಣ್ಣ ಹರ್ಬೇಷಿಯಸ್ ಗಿಡ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟೊ ಗಿಡದ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದರೆ, ಈ ಕೊಲೊಕೇಸಿಯಲ್ ಗಿಡಗಳ ಹತ್ರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋದರೆ, ಆ ಗಿಡಗಳ ತುದಿಯಿಂದ ಎಡ್ಜಸ್ಸಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ನೀರಿನಂಶ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ. You are able to see the water droplets this way. So what is this? This is the guttated water. Idu guttated water. So guttation andre enta. What is guttation? Guttation is the loss of water in the form of water droplets from the aerial parts of the plant. So aerial parts of the plant inda, especially towards the leaves inda, ನಿಮ್ಮ ನೀರಿನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಹೀಗೆ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರೋದು, this process is known as guttation, and this guttation occurs through openings or specialized structures called as hydatodes. ವೆನ್ ಡಸ್ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಅಕರ್? ಡಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಕರ್ ದಿ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಡೇ? ಇಡೀ ದಿನ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದ? ಇಲ್ಲ. ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಅಕರ್ಸ್ early in the morning or during the night time. ನಾವು ಯಾವ್ದ್ಯಾವುದು ಗಿಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ? ಎಲ್ಲ ಗಿಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ? ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸಣ್ಣ ಹರ್ಬೇಷಿಯಸ್ ಗಿಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಯಾಬೇಜ್ ಗಿಡ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಟಾಟೆ ಗಿಡ, ಪೊಟೇಟೊ, ಕೊಲೊಕೇಸಿಯಾ, ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟೊ, ಇಂತಹ ಗಿಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಗಟ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಅಕರ್ಸ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ನೈಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ or during the early mornings through the hydatodes of the plants. Hydatodes are specialized structures that are present in the plant. Now this guttation occurs in herbaceous plants like your tomatoes, colocasia, potato, cabbage and so on. Is the guttated water pure? No. Guttated water is not pure. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅನಿಸಿಕೆ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಗಿಡಗಳಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರುವಂತಹ ನೀರು ತುಂಬ ಶುದ್ಧವಾದ ನೀರು. ನನಗೆ ನೆನಪಿದೆ, ನಾನು ಸಣ್ಣದಿರುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ತಿರ ಇರುವ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಲ್ಲ ಇದನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಈ ನೀರು ಭಾರಿ ಶುದ್ಧ ನೀರು, ಅದನ್ನು ಕಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ಕಣ್ಣು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಕಣ್ಣು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ. ಆದರೆ ನಾನು ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ, ನಾನು ಓದಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನು ನಮ್ಮ ಬಯಾಲಜಿ ಓದಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು ಈ ನೀರು ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಆದರೆ ಗಿಡದಿಂದ ಬರುವ ನೀರು ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಎಂತ? ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ನೀರು ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಸಿ, ಈ ಲೀಫ್ ಎಪಿಡರ್ಮಿಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ನೋನ್ ಆಸ್ ಹೈಡತೋಡ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಈ ಹೈಡತೋಡಿಂದ ಈ ನೀರಿನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ಲೆಟ್ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೀನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ, ಇಸ್ಂಟ್ ಇಟ್? ಸೊ ಈ ನೀರು ಯಾಕೆ ಪ್ಯೂರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಹೈಡತೋಡ್ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿಯೇ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಅದು ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹೈಡತೋಡ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ರಿಮೇನ್ ಓಪನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಡತೋಡ್ಸ್ ಓಪನ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್, ಫಂಗಲ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್, ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಇನ್ಸೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದು ಅದರದ್ದು ಲಾರ್ವಲ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಹಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಮೊಟ್ಟೆ ಇಡೋದು ಅಂಥದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ದ guttated water is pure because the hydatodes are always open. So this phenomena you must have observed early in the mornings, wherein you can see the water droplets from the tip of the plants. Okay, so guttation is another example for your root pressure. Now what is the limitation of root pressure? As I've already mentioned before, it shows only a modest push in the overall process of water transport. Only up to a short distance. ಈ ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಸಣ್ಣ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ತನಕ ಮಾತ್ರ, ಸಣ್ಣ ಸಣ್ಣ ಗಿಡಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂಚೂರು ಮೇಲೆ ನೀರನ್ನು ಅದು ಪುಷ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತದೆ. ಮೇಲೆ ತನಕ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮರಗಳಿಗೆ ಬರುವಾಗ ಇದು ವರ್ಕೌಟ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಯೂಕಲಿಪ್ಟಸ್ ಮರ ಇದೆ, ಕ್ವೈಟ್ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್, ದ ಯೂಕಲಿಪ್ಟಸ್ ಟ್ರೀಸ್. How will the water go till there? Not with the help of root pressure. So this root pressure, since it is showing a modest amount of push of the water, only up till a certain extent you can see the upward movement of water with the help of root pressure. The next phenomena is transpiration. Okay, so upward movement, ascent of sap. One theory is your root pressure theory. Second one is through transpiration. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plant. From the aerial parts of the plant, it is lost in the form of water vapor. Whereas when you come to guttation, it is a loss of water in the form of water droplets, ಹನಿಗಳಾಗಿ. ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರಿನ ವೇಪರ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ವಾಟರ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಫ್ರಾಮ್ ದಿ ಏರಿಯಲ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್. ನೌ ಯು ವಾಟರ್ ದಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ಸ್, ಈ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋಂತಹ ಗಿಡಗಳು, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ನೀರು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಯುಟಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಖಾಲಿ 1% ಮಾತ್ರ ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಓನ್ಲಿ 1% is utilized. Rest of the water that you have added is lost in the form of transpiration. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನೀವು ಹಾಕಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀರು ಆ ಸ್ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟಲ್ ಓಪನಿಂಗಿಂದ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ವೇಪರ್. ಸೊ ಹೇಗೂ 1% ನೀರು ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಖಾಲಿ ಒಂಚೂರು ನೀರು ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ಸಾಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀರು, ಆ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ನೀರನ್ನು ಎಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಖಾಲಿ 1%, ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ 1%ಗಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ನೀರು ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ಗೆ ಯುಟಿಲೈಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ಡ್ and this transpiration occurs mainly through the stomata. Now what is the experimental evidence that you have that transpiration is taking place? Transpiration ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಎಂಥ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಇದೆ? You have different experimental evidences for transpiration. So one of the experiment is using a polythene bag. ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೀಲವನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಪಾಲಿಥೀನ್ ಬ್ಯಾಗಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವೆಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ಡ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಟನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡು ಅದರ ಎಲೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೀಲವನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೀಲವನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಲೀಫಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟೋದಿಂದ ನೀರೆಲ್ಲ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವುದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿದೆ, ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಆದ ನೀರು ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫಿಯರಿಗೆ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಈ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಚೀಲದಲ್ಲೇ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದ ಮಾಯ್ಶ್ಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಆ ನೀರಿನ ಅಂಶ ಕಾಣಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಸಿ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ಇಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ವೆಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ಡ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಅ polythene bag. We have tied a polythene bag to the leaves. So when you tie the polythene bag to the leaves, what happens is when the transpiration is taking place and the water is lost in the form of water vapor through the stomata of the leaves, what will happen? It will be escape and it will be collected within this polythene bag and you are able to see the water collected over here. This is one of the evidences. The second evidence, experimental evidence for transpiration is using a cobalt chloride paper. Now the cobalt chloride paper, when it is dry, it is usually bluish in color. Cobalt chloride, okay, it is bluish in color. When it comes in contact with water or when it comes in contact with moisture, it turns pink in color. So here in the second experiment what we do is we take 2 strips of cobalt chloride paper and onto a leaf we keep 1 strip on the upper epidermis and 1 more strip on the lower epidermis and we place your slides over it and clip it up. Transpiration will be taking place from the leaves through the stomata. So moisture is there. This cobalt chloride paper will come in contact with that moisture of the transpired water and it will turn pink in color. This is one more indication, this is one more experimental evidence to show transpiration. What is the structure of the stomata? The structure of the stomata also you have studied in the previous classes. So just to brush up, you should know the stomata is present on the epidermis of the leaves. Isn't it? It is present both in the upper as well as in the lower epidermis depending upon the type of the leaf. How is it? The stomata that is there, it has a slit or a pore. This pore is known as a stomatal pore or stomatal aperture. And this stomatal aperture that is there, it is guarded by 2 bean-shaped or kidney-shaped cells known as the guard cells. This is a guard cell. Remember, these are typical plant cells. Okay, so you have an aperture or a slit known as your stomatal pore or stomatal aperture, which is surrounded by kidney-shaped cells known as your guard cells. Now, the guard cell has the presence of a centrally placed vacuole and the cytoplasm is towards the periphery. So these guard cells that are there, they are surrounded by your specialized cells known as your subsidiary cells. So stomatal aperture, stomata the structure annu now lower classes alli modlina classes alli ella kaltideve. So illi stomatadalli ಏನು ಇರ್ತದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಪೋರ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಒಂದು ಸ್ಲಿಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಓಕೆ, ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಓಪನಿಂಗನ್ನು ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ 2 ಕಿಡ್ನಿ ಶೇಪ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಬೀನ್ ಶೇಪ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ನೋನ್ ಆಸ್ ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಸಬ್ಸಿಡರಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಇವೆ. and the opening and closing of the stomata that is there, it mainly depends upon the turgidity and flaccidity of the guard cells. So, turgidity and flaccidity is in turn, it depends upon your water, isn't it, whether endosmosis or exosmosis is taking place. Just imagine this to be your guard cell. This is one guard cell, this is one more guard cell, and here in between you have your stomatal aperture. When the guard cells are turgid, what will happen? They attain that bean shaped structure. So, the stomata will be open, this stomata will be open. Okay. And when they are flaccid, when exosmosis has taken place and they are flaccid, what will happen? The stomatal, they have become flaccid. So, here the stomatal aperture will close. So, the opening and closing of your stomata, it is based upon the turgidity and flaccidity of the cells. So, when the guard cells are turgid, okay, endosmosis agi ee guard cells turgid ಆಗಿರುವಾಗ ಈ stomatal opening open ಇರ್ತದೆ, stomatal aperture open ಇರ್ತದೆ. guard cells exosmosis ತೋರಿಸಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಲಾಸಿಡಿಟಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಫ್ಲಾಸಿಡಿಟಿ ಬರುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟೊಮ್ಯಾಟಾ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Distribution of stomata, stomata ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ? So, as I already said, stomata is present in the epidermis of the leaves, both the upper as well as the lower epidermis of the leaf, depending upon the type of leaf. So, if you take a dorsiventral leaf or a dicot leaf, you have the stomata on both epidermis, upper as well as lower, but on the lower surface, on the lower epidermis, you have more number of stomata. The number of stomata is more on the lower epidermis of a dorsiventral leaf or a dicot leaf. Whereas, when you come to a isobilateral or a monocot leaf, both the surfaces, that is the upper epidermis as well as the lower epidermis, has equal, almost equal number of your stomata. What are the plant factors affecting transpiration? Now, transpiration is affected by various factors. It can be your environmental factors like the water availability, the pressure, the temperature, light, and so on. Okay. Within the plant also there are certain factors which affect the rate of transpiration, and those internal factors, okay, plant factors, some of the plant factors affecting your transpiration is the number of stomata. If the number of stomata is more, then the rate of transpiration is also more. If the stomata is less, then your transpiration is also lesser. Distribution of stomata, whether it is in the upper epidermis, more in the upper epidermis, or more in the lower epidermis, or equal number of epidermis, okay, this also plays a very important role. Number of stomata that is open, okay, if the stomata, if more number of stomata is open, then more rate of transpiration. Less amount of your stomata is open, less amount of transpiration. Water status of the plant. What is the water status? Does it have enough water? Does it have sufficient water within the plant? This also plays a very important role in transpiration. Canopy structure, whether the plant is covered by a canopy. Imagine it's a large tree, okay. So, the leaves that are present towards the outside, they show more amount of transpiration. Within, it will be showing less amount of transpiration. Imagine it's a forest, you have a canopy over there, and below those trees you have small plants. These show less amount of transpiration, because the canopy structure also plays a very important role, because it governs, it controls the amount of sunlight also falling upon the plants.